There is a kind of emotional suffering that doesn't happen in a single moment, but grows quietly inside you, piece by piece, day after day, until you suddenly realize you have been bleeding emotionally for someone who never truly shows up for you. It doesn't feel like a dramatic heartbreak or a painful ending. It feels like a slow leak, a quiet draining, a heaviness that sits behind your ribs and steals your peace little by little. You keep showing up. You keep giving. You keep extending your heart with the hope that maybe this time they will meet you halfway. Maybe this time they'll try. Maybe this time they'll see what you're offering. But every time, you end up holding the weight of the connection alone. You write long messages. They reply with short answers. You express your feelings. They avoid theirs. You initiate conversations. They leave you waiting. You show effort. They give excuses. You offer vulnerability. They offer distance. You pour love. They give fragments. And the worst part is that you begin to think the bleeding is your fault. You begin to believe that if you were less emotional, less expressive, less sensitive, less needy, less intense, more patient, more understanding, or more self-controlled, then maybe they would show up for you the way you show up for them. But emotional bleeding doesn't happen because you are too much. It happens because they are too little. Emotional bleeding is what happens when someone is emotionally unavailable, yet you continue giving them emotional intimacy. It is not that they don't care at all, it's that they don't know how to care consistently. They don't know how to be emotionally present. They don't know how to be accountable to someone else's heart. They don't know how to sit with discomfort, vulnerability, intimacy, or closeness. They disappear when it matters. They shut down when it gets real. They withdraw when you need them most. They avoid the very connection you are trying to build. And so the bleeding begins. It begins when you start abandoning yourself in the hopes that they will finally choose you. It begins when you shrink yourself to fit their capacity. It begins when you silence your needs so you don't scare them away. It begins when you try to be the safe place for someone who treats emotional closeness like danger. It begins when you give them everything you wish someone would give you, while they give you nothing you truly deserve. So how do you stop bleeding emotionally for someone who doesn't show up? The first step is accepting the truth you've been trying to avoid. Their inability to show up has nothing to do with your worth. You cannot outlove someone's emotional wounds. You cannot outgive someone's fear of intimacy. You cannot outrun someone's avoidance. You cannot fix someone whose emotional survival system is built on distance. You cannot become so perfect that they suddenly develop the emotional capacity they never learned to have. The second step is recognizing that the pain you're feeling is not a sign that something is wrong with you. It is a sign that something inside you has been overgiving, overextending, and overfunctioning for far too long. Your emotional bleeding is a message from your heart, asking you to stop abandoning yourself in order to feel chosen by someone else. It is a message telling you that you are asking someone to show up in a way they have never shown up for anyone. It is a message telling you that you have mistaken their emotional limitations for your emotional shortcomings. The third step is reclaiming all the energy you gave away. Every overthought message, every anxious night, every attempt to decode their silence, every effort to understand their distance, every tear you shed wondering why you weren't enough. All of that energy was emotional labor. All of it belonged to you first. So now, you begin taking it back. You stop checking your phone, hoping for a message that never arrives. You stop rehearsing what you should have said. You stop replaying their last conversation. You stop believing their lack of effort is a reflection of your value. You stop building a fantasy about who they could be. You stop waiting for them to heal, grow, transform, or finally be ready. You stop trying to earn love from someone who doesn't know how to offer it. The bleeding slows when you begin turning inward instead of outward. When you stop pouring into someone who gives you emptiness in return. When you stop giving second, third, and 10th chances to someone who can't meet you emotionally even once. When you start choosing peace over potential. When you choose clarity over confusion. When you choose consistency over crumbs. When you choose yourself over someone who only shows up when it's convenient. And the final step, the one that closes the wound, is this. You start showing up for yourself in the exact places they didn't. When they stayed silent, you choose expression. When they avoided intimacy, you choose connection with yourself. When they pulled away, you pull inward, not into loneliness, but into self-presence. When they made you feel unimportant, you treat yourself like a priority. When they made you feel unseen, you look at yourself with compassion. When they failed to show up, you show up for you. And slowly, the bleeding stops. Not because they changed, apologized, or suddenly realized your worth. The bleeding stops because you finally did. Because you finally recognized that your heart deserved someone who shows up without being begged. Because you finally understood that love shouldn't feel like chasing a ghost. Because you finally decided that your healing matters more than their absence. Because you finally came home to yourself. And that is where the real transformation begins. This is Attachment Alchemy Lab, and you're safe here.